the single most expensive thing you can have is your own private aircraft. Our goal at Silver Air is to offset as many of the ownership costs as possible by optimizing the financial management of the asset. Let's get into it.
Owning an aircraft is not as simple as owning a car. You cannot just drive it off the lot. A lot more goes into managing and operating an aircraft. It is an ongoing commitment.
You know, a lot of things go into managing the financial performance of an airplane. We really look at it in two big categories. Your fixed cost, which are like your crew, insurance, hangars, databases on the airplanes, your Wi-Fi expense, all of these things that are kind of monthly expenses on the aircraft. They're the same whether or not we fly the airplane or not. On the fixed expenses, they range anywhere from $50,000 up to $200,000 depending on the aircraft. And then we look at what's called direct operating costs, which is fuel, your engine programs, and potentially some future maintenance reserves you put on the airplane. So whenever the airplane is moving, those costs exist. So the more you fly the airplane, the more your direct operating costs go up. Let's say we fly the airplane 10 hours and there's a direct operating cost of, call it $5,000. So you just spent $50,000 on direct operating costs. So what we do, we try and balance out your fixed costs with your DOCs and then add the revenue component, which is through the charter model. Let's say you own a Gulfstream G550 and your aviation budget is, call it $4 million a year with fixed and your DOCs combined. Your charter revenue, you can cut it in half in a lot of cases. So there's a lot of advantages, both financially and operationally to put the aircraft in a charter fleet. It's really important to work with a management company who is advocating for you financially because these costs can get out of control sometimes. And, we really take it seriously. When we work with vendors, cost control is one of the biggest things we look at. And then also leveraging our volume purchasing through maintenance. We have all of our aircraft on a fleet insurance policy, which when we pass on to our owners, it's a significant reduction. A lot of times we can cut these costs in half. But back into your fixed cost, these are your costs that always exist regardless if you're flying the airplane or not. It's important to kind of look at these things from a big picture view. Owners will try and cut costs by paying crews less or not employing pilots. And the downside to that is that you end up with a lot of pilot turnover. And we really like to hire the best crews, pay them a little bit more, and they take care of us, they take care of the aircraft, they take care of the owner of the aircraft. Save money in certain spots, but don't skimp in other ways because ultimately it will go into saving you money in the long run. A lot of times owners, when we start talking about the charter revenue, do I want my airplane in a charter fleet? Do I not want it in a charter fleet? Do I want people on the airplane? Do I not want people on the airplane? You really have to understand the type of operation and also kind of guide the operation. I only want to fly these types of missions. I only want to fly certain types of customers. Be part of those decisions with the management company. We really love for our owners to get involved in the whole operation of it and really understand what they're getting into. Once we kind of really understand their expectations and educate them and we have a good plan around it, then we can go deploy the plan. And financial performance is a big part of that plan. Some of the things we work with owners on and how we save money sometimes is do we want to park the airplane inside a hangar or do we want to keep it out on a ramp? Two very different plans. One is very, very expensive. One's not very expensive. When you look at the overall operation of the aircraft, if the airplane's flying a lot, let's say we're doing a full owner schedule and charter, flying at 600 hours a year, airplane's gonna rarely be at base anyways, so do we want to spend $25,000 on a hangar? Or do we just want to spend a few $1,000s for a dedicated ramp space? These are things that we kind of educate our owners on. We kind of give our opinion and our guidance and ultimately let the owner make an informed decision on how they want the airplane stored. That's just one example. Yeah, so DOCs exist anytime the airplane's flying. And it really depends on who's using the airplane. If it's an owner and we have to go pick an owner up somewhere and fly them back, they pay DOCs for the hours we're flying the airplane. If it's a charter client, the charter client pays those costs as part of their charter fee. So let's say, we have a $5,000 per hour direct operating costs and we charter the aircraft out for $10,000 an hour, then the owner has a profit margin over and above the DOC. That's how, we generate positive revenue for an aircraft. The charter revenue is really meant to offset the cost of ownership. You're never going to make money on your aircraft because it is a very, very expensive endeavor. And so our goal is to optimize the financial performance of the aircraft. We do our best to keep costs down and keep revenue as high as possible and the annual out-of-pocket expense down to a minimum as much as we can. So when people look at aircraft ownership, they tend to look at the price of the aircraft. And what's interesting is a lot of people don't really understand that all these aircraft have different kind of costs of ownerships. A small airplane costs less money than a big airplane. Call it a CJ3 costs a lot less money per year to own than like a G550 or a G650, something like that. The cost of ownership is an extremely important number to understand. Buying the airplane is just the beginning. Every year you're going to have an expense, and it's very important for the owner to understand these numbers before they get into ownership. That's kind of where we step in as a management company. When somebody's looking at buying an airplane, it's a really, really good value to buy, but here's what it's going to look like for the next 5 years. Once you start looking at that, it really changes kind of the perspective on how owners buy airplanes sometimes. Management companies like Silver Air Private Jets, we all do things a little bit different, and it's really important to find the right fit for you. Silver Air has taken the approach of owner advocacy, transparency, and being really focused on what we do managing and operating airplanes. I also think size matters too. There's management companies that are very, very large. They're sort of the big box, one size fits all, this is how we do it, this is the only way we do it. But every owner is different. And I believe being the right size in our industry is really important. At Silver Air, we're big enough to have volume and purchase power, but we're also not too big. We're small enough to know all of our aircraft owners and what their expectations are. And, I'm friends with most of our owners, and they all have my cell number. And that's pretty rare when you get to the big organizations. And so I think when you're looking for a management system that is going to adapt to you, not you adapt to the management company, we're really in that sweet spot of aircraft management companies. And then in addition to that, if you are looking for charter revenue as part of your ownership model, we are one of the best charter organizations in the country.